These blasphemous texts are the Necronomicon. It was written by the mad Arab al-Hazrad himself and was found in the possession of a desert-dwelling Sufi tribe in Upper Egypt. It contains forbidden knowledge and unholy incantations. You have been warned. The Grimoire of Tsathoggua. The entity known to mankind as Tsathoggua is among the more indolent yet insidious of the old ones. To the fur-clad Vormi he is Tsath, to Hyperborean mystics, Tsathoggua, and among the Atlantean priesthood, the sleeper of Nakai. In the caverns of Yoth, his likeness is revered as the furred crawler, while the fungoid spawn of Yuggoth call him Bufoniformis Sadokwe, the amorphous toad lord, rendered in their gibbering croak. In the black rite of the basalt circle, acolytes hail him as Lord Tsathoggua, father of night and firstborn of the outer brood. His coming is chanted with throats half-choked in reverence and dread. Iya, Iya, Nothikagaha, Iya, Tsathoggua, until the shadows pulse and the walls glisten with an unseen mucosal breath. To those who dare behold him in waking vision or through rites of dreaming, Tsathoggua appears as a squat, corpulent monstrosity of toad-like semblance, draped in shadows and bat fur. His body bulges with sluggish vitality, a torso swollen with subterranean vapor and ancient sleep. From hunched shoulders descend mats of coarse, dark fur, melding with a glistening hide that sweats slime beneath the phosphorescent glow of Nakai. His limbs are stubby, his digits paw-like and ill-suited for haste, yet strangely adapted to perching upon basalt altars in obscene repose. The god's globular eyes, half-lidded and dull with eternal torpor, pulse with a slow inner light, neither fire nor glow, but awareness made flesh. His forked tongue, lolling languidly between thick, unmoving lips, stirs only when the scent of sacrifice tinges the air. Mortals name him the incarnation of indolence, for he does not move unless stirred by rites of blood and chanted invocation. Unlike those old ones who shroud themselves in jeweled obscenity, Tsathoggua eschews ornament. His flesh is cloaked only in the black fur of cave bats, bristly to the touch and damp with cavernous dew. Beneath this, his skin is pallid and amphibian, slick and repellent. His basaltic likeness, carved without embellishment, bears no gemmed eye, no crown, no sigil, only the honest grotesquerie of his bulk, rendered in cold stone. His idols speak not of grandeur, but of endurance, of a deity unmoved by the petty adornments of mortal art. Though known in dream and legend as the black-toed god, Tsathoggua's shape is not fixed. In the blue-lit vaults of Sikranosh, he once took on aspects of Zil-Kwangja, his Saturnine uncle, formless limbs, sightless gaze, fur turned pale as moon ash. His lineage from Sexexukluth grants him the capacity to dissolve and reassemble at will. In some visions he is seen as a mass of quivering slime, breathing only with the memory of form. His true body is mutable, a parable of decay, coagulated thought masquerading as flesh. No graven image can hold his fullness. No mind, however debased, may contain the vision of his wholly unveiled aspect without courting annihilation. His eyes, half-veiled and indifferent, do not see in mortal light, but penetrate into thought and essence. They are not orbs but openings, through which issue compulsions clothed as dreams. His tongue, limp, unclean, unceasing, tastes the air for offerings and the souls of those who draw near. Beneath the thick folds of his body pulses a rhythm ancient and slow, yet his presence projects far beyond his skin. In his presence the mind dulls, the will withers, and the limbs slacken with worshipful paralysis. No voice calls from his lips, yet all who stand before him hear the command to kneel. Earthly minds liken him to a grotesque fusion of bat and sloth grafted upon the frame of an enormous toad. But these are metaphors born of ignorance. He is not of this world, and no beast of air or mire can truly mirror his aspect. His sluggishness is not torpor but eternity. His bulk is not weight but permanence. He is older than classification prior to the world, a relic not of evolution, but of stagnation before time stirred. The stone likenesses that mark his worship are but shadows of the shadow. Hewn from the black rock of Yoth, they are squat, blank-eyed, and devoid of adornment. Their simplicity is their power, for they depict the surface truth of Tsathoggua, unmoving, unblinking, unchanging. Yet his true form sprawls across dimensions, oozing through fissures in the veil of worlds. To gaze upon the idol and suppose the god contained therein is the first and last folly of many cultists. For Tsathoggua is not confined to the stone, but waits beyond it, seeping, swelling, dreaming. Born of the union between Geases, spawn of Azathoth whose exhalation carves mountains of madness, and an unclean liaison with Tsathoggua of Saturnine Sikranosh, Tsathoggua is a grandchild of Formless Quetzalcoatl. In the deeper scholia of the Black Book, there are whispers that the fertility of Shub-Niggurath, she who must never be empty, lies dormant in the ooze of Nakai, suggesting an impure entanglement among the most ancient lines. By coupling with the earth spirit Chushaks, Tsathoggua begot Zvilpoggua, an appetite-given flesh. Through this line came the Vormish tribes of the north and Osadagawa, known in whispers as the tunneler between breaths, whose forms linger like stains in both the underworld and the waking world. To escape the ravenous will of Quetzalcoatl, Tsathoggua fled to Yuggoth, dwelling within its glacial crypts and tasting first worship among the fungoid spawn who carved his semblance from frozen slime and fed its spores. In Neptune's abyssal courts, he was a guest of the Saturnine brood of Tsathoggua, where he drank the secrets of stillness and slumber. Saturn became his basalt gate. There he etched primal sigils upon the black stone, sealing them with the ichor of alien pact. Through a vein of molten darkness he descended into the earth, coming to rest in the sunless pits of Nikai beneath forgotten Hyperborea. There he rooted himself, thick as lichen on stone, awaiting the folly of man to stir his dreams to wakefulness. Beneath the glacial desolation of ancient Hyperborea yawns Nikai, a realm where the sun has never shone and no star dares pierce the veil. The air hangs thick with putrescence, heavy with moisture and the slow exhalations of fungal life. Vast caverns of obsidian stretch in spirals that defy the mind, lit only by a dim red phosphorescence that recoils before the god's own emanations. Ceilings weep a continuous rain of slime. Stalactites glisten like black fangs, their drops rippling the stagnant pools below. Pools that mirror no reflection but distort with the passing of unseen forms. Amid the gloom rise the ruins of forgotten empires, basalt towers shattered, onyx temples half swallowed by decay, all crusted in luminous mildew and the slow advance of pale fungi. No mortal tool shaped these halls. They were grown, or summoned, or bled into form by rites now lost. The spawn of Tsathoggua abide in Nikai, without bone or true form, rising from bronze cauldrons when blood is spilled in his name. These protean things writhe in silence, mimicking limbs and eyes and mouths, but always dissolving into sludge when their purpose wanes. Their touch corrodes not only flesh but memory. More terrible still are the deeper horrors. Limbed deities whose jointed limbs end in iron hooks, scaled forms that glide without sound, and presences unnamed in any scroll save those penned in blood and quickly burned. Their chants echo in vibrations rather than sound, and when their shadows pass, time itself seems to falter. Once, before the white tomb of ice sealed the world, the city of Tsath stood proud beneath the earth. Its towers, carved from living basalt, rose black and glistening in the underworld murk, each bearing the unblinking gaze of Tsathoggwa's image atop a pedestal of onyx. In those cyclopean streets, slaves harvested phosphorescent fungi, their blood feeding the forges wherein alien metals were shaped for rituals no longer performed. At the city's heart loomed the Grand Basin, an immense bowl of bronze forever moist with the residue of sacrificial spawnings. Priests cloaked in sable furs moved with solemn pace between towers, reciting the chant that stirs the sleeper. When the glaciers came, the towers shattered and the streets fell silent, entombed beneath 1,000 years of frozen stone. Yet in dreams, the basin still bubbles. Upon the craggy plains of Yoth, beneath a baleful red sky, stand the hollowed remnants of Tsathoggwa's surface sanctuaries. Built in mimicry of the underworld, their basalt blocks bear crude idols and worn glyphs daubed in dried slime. The dim glow of Yoth's sky fails to touch their interiors, for the priests who once dwelt there extinguished all flame, leaving only the dull shimmer of cave fungi to illuminate rites. Fragments of frescoes still cling to the walls, shamans bowing before the black idol, beings of fur and fang offering steaming vessels to the basin's lip. On some stone faces the ancient tongues of Atlantis cry out in scratched warnings, half consumed by the rot. To the south, where the subterranean cities of Canyan sprawl in blue gloom, the cult of Tsathoggua once flowered like a fungus, ubiquitous and obscene. In those maze-like halls, reptilian races danced their devotions beneath basalt effigies, lit by the cold gleam of bioluminescent stone. But time brought knowledge, and knowledge brought sacrilege. With rays of dissolution, the necromancers turned against their gods' images, rendering basalt and onyx into powder and ash. The cult dwindled, the spawn returned to the caverns. Now only mold creeps where once chants rose, and the silence is absolute. In the lost city of Comorium, where Atlantean scribes first dared set quill to the descent of Tsathoggua, processions once passed through marble halls bearing basalt images enshrined in veined onyx. Scrolls attributed to Ashton record great festivals of blood, and murals depict toad things slithering forth from bronze vessels. Though Comorium lies beneath glacial stone, shards of pigment unearthed in more recent ages reveal the same squat form in repose, haloed by darkness. Far in the polar wastes, in the forgotten shrine of Olatho, rites lingered through the eons. The Nofkes, shaggy sibyls of the snow, kept Tsathoggwa's flame alive through meat and chant, sacrificing in silence beneath the flickering green light of the aurora. Their words were few, their rites simple, but in the polar night when the sky turned to fire, they heard voices in the ice. And in Vormithadrith, that mountain which hides its face from the sun, lies the last of his accessible temples. Ralibar Vuz dared its fissures and was never the same. Poisonous vapors seep upward from cracks in the stone, and the air thickens with the weight of dreams. There, in the squat black temple, sits an onyx pedestal with a bronze basin upon it, warm though no flame burns. The shadows crawl, and those who emerge speak little, only that the god sleeps and dreams and remembers. In the vast, airless chambers of Nakai, the true rites of Tsathoggua unfold in primeval darkness. Upon basalt altars lie the bronze basins, three-legged troughs filled with black syrupy ichor that quivers at the scent of blood. Here, Vormi shamans, swathed in pelts and ossified talismans, trace circles of black sand and whisper guttural invocations. With phosphorescent fungi lit as offerings to the void, they smear the stone idols with blood and entrails, beseeching the god's spawn to rise. The caverns tremble with silent resonance, and intruding minds falter, besieged by compulsions not their own, echoes of a will that predates the fall of stars. On the crimson-lit plains of Yoth, sanctuaries of basalt and onyx echo the deeper designs of Nakai. Their crude idols glisten with mineral sweat, and their walls depict ancient Vormi ascending from darkness bearing tributes. In Kainyan, beneath a sapphire gloom, reptilian celebrants once danced in honor of the toad god. But pride corrupted them. With rays of dissolution they sundered the god's effigies, reducing shrine and symbol to obsidian dust. The cult's light dimmed, and silence spread where once ecstasy had echoed. Upon the surface, mortal cults emulated the subterranean faith. In desolate Hyperborean settlements, human initiates conjured spawn in shallow pits rimmed with black sand, chanting Ibonic verses beneath alien stars. The chant, Nothikagaha, summoned formless oozes that crawled into fissures, leaving no breath nor footprint. Yet with each rite, a fragment of Tsathoggwa's dreaming essence seeped outward, corrupting soil, air and mind. In Olatho, buried beneath the snowfields of Lomar, the Nofkes endure. At midwinter, they gather at a glacial shrine, lighting ice lanterns around a crude basalt block. There they offer frozen seal flesh and chant to delay the toad god's awakening. In the old days of Lomar, rival human cults resisted this influence, But the glaciers came, and those few who survived fled into the ice caves, where even now they mutter the forgotten names in secret, shielded by the very cold they once feared. On frozen Yuggoth, the Mi-Go revere Tsathoggua as a primal progenitor. In dim chasms they offer crystalline hydrocarbons and mycelial spores, arranging basalt fragments etched with the cipher and Vorbufonidos Tsath. Ne'er, beneath vaults rhymed in hoarfrost, they trade dreams for knowledge, visions of Nikai sent like spores into the minds of sleeping acolytes. These dreams fester across time and species, propagating a cult not of flesh, but of thought. The Vormi maintain the oldest lineage of the Toad God's clergy. These sublime crawler priests preside over the bronze troughs and intone chants of awakening in rasped pre-human syllables. Their bodies are adorned with fetishes of bone and soot-blackened fur, and their eyes glow with fungal fever. In their care, the spawn never hunger long. Above ground, human sects declare themselves acolytes of Nikai's sovereignty. They take on ranks such as Angist Servitor and Executor of Sacrifice, binding themselves with oaths transcribed in the Ibonian script. Their flesh is marked, their names erased, their wills suborned to the god who sleeps beneath. The blue-lit cities of Kanyan once hosted sorcerer engineers who enslaved the spawn through both spell and circuit. Figures such as Esdagor and Ralibar Vuz bound formless horrors with chants laced into harmonics. But their arrogance birthed retribution, and the disintegration ray, a fusion of thaumaturgy and plasma, silenced their rites. Whispers tell of a hidden cabal, dark technomancers still experimenting with Tsathogua's essence beneath forgotten towers. The Nofke of Olatho have preserved a quiet vigil through millennia of frost. Armed with enchanted bone axes and bound by ancestral duty, they defend the black altar against spawn and worse. When the polar night waxes, they chant in unison, their breath misting the air as their voices blur into one ancient drone. The fungal priests of the Mago, called the Elders of the Black Mycelium, serve as psychic intermediaries between Yuggoth's spawn and Tsathogua's dreaming mind. In carved caverns, they shape the runic altan set into basalt walls, elliptic glyph arrays that regulate dream currents and preserve cosmic bindings. Every sanctum bears a squat, unadorned idol carved from the cold basalt of Yoth. Its half-lidded eyes and slack tongue betray no motion, yet the weight of its presence presses upon the air. The idol rests upon a throne of polished onyx, its facets catching no light, but emanating a low, sullen resonance that calls to the spawn beyond. These bronze basins, always three-footed, form the focus of sacrifice. Their viscous contents bubble with ancestral hunger, animated by blood and breath. The triadic design symbolizes not only mind, body, and spirit, but their surrender, their unification in abjection. Black sand, sifted from the shores of forgotten Yothic rivers, is drawn into ritual patterns mimicking Nikai's topography. At the center is placed an obsidian sphere filled with jackal's blood. When tilted, it spills into the basin, and the basin responds, always. Ritual amulets of onyx, etched with the toad sign, a triangle encircled with fungal tendrils, serve as both ward and invitation. Stelae of Raftontis, carved in the shape of ravenous birds, mark thresholds and sanctify spaces for the god's presence. Their placement is precise, their meaning, buried beneath millennia of fear, initiates don garments stitched with fur and hide, mirroring the god's own monstrous form. The Geast servitors tattoo his eye upon their ring fingers, while some scar their chests with circular glyphs denoting submission. Each mark is a tether, binding flesh to form and form to void. Homage, Lord Tsathoggua, Father of Night, hoary crawler through the fungal deeps. In thy torpor lies the seed of dominion. Awaken us with thy black breath, that we may serve in dreamless dark. A second verse, whispered only during eclipses, recounts his journey. From Sikranos you fell, O shadowed womb. Through frost and time you drifted, to dwell in the stone that drinks blood. Third, recited at the edge of sacrifice. I am blood sent by Esdagor, vein unsealed, name given, soul forfeit. Firstborn of the outer dark, take this flesh and rise. Spoken only once each night before dawn, this chant echoes through caverns and bones alike. Each utterance of Nothi Kagaha invites proximity, and each pause grants space for the spawn to stir. Silence follows the chant, not peace but anticipation. To call the god, the crescent hand is shown, 3 curled fingers and an outstretched thumb, mimicking the toad's silhouette. To sever communion, the sign of the trembling 3, index, middle and ring fingers quiver upon the lips while others are folded away. This gesture halts the flow of emanation and seals the rite. Among the Mago, the name Vobufonidus Tsath calms the newborn spawn. The Altan set glyph array, an elliptical script carved only by fungal hands, closes the portals of Nakai until the return of the Black Moon. Without these words, no summoning is safe, and no sealing is final. 3 sacred seasons govern his summoning. Vernal equinox, when the ice thins and the portals murmur. Winter solstice, when the god's torpor deepens and proximity peaks. Black moon of Yuggoth, when no light shines and the spawn proliferate unbound. Rituals are empowered when Saturn and Neptune align, forming the icy bridge from Sikranosh to Nakai. This ring of Boreas is charted in the Parchments of Pnom. Likewise, Yuggoth sextile to Saturn initiates the fungoid eclipse, under which spawn rise unaided and unbidden. True rites must unfold in caverns of basalt, mimicking Nakai's curvature. Surface substitutes include the uncarved shrine atop Vormith-Adreth and the aurora-lit chamber beneath Olatho's glacial veil. Only where basalt and ice merge can the god be called without rupture. Braziers filled with powdered basalt and obsidian dust release noxious fumes. The mixture of sulfur and stone cleanses the chamber of lesser thought and binds the senses to subterranean resonance. A living sacrifice is offered, be it human or in rare rites, sloth or ape. The blood is drained into the 3-legged basin, mixing with its black ichor until the fluid thickens with response. Some rites substitute jackal's blood, known to provoke older, more ancient spawn forms. Mycelial scrapings from Hyperborean tombs are cast into the basin. The spores congeal with blood, their fusion awakening the breath of Tsathoggwa's chthonic seed. Acolytes cloak themselves in black fur and don eye-shaped masks. Initiates bear tattoos of the tri-legged sigil upon the brow, marking them as vessels through which the god may peer. Black sand is arrayed in concentric rings around the basin, replicating Nakai's geometry. At the center is etched the triple hexagon, a focus for divine descent. The high shaman chants, "Homage, O Tsathoggua, hoary crawler, in thy silence lies command. From slumber rise, from void observe." Then the blood offering is invoked. "I am Esdagor's offering, named and surrendered. Let thy spawn rise, that thy will may be known." An obsidian sphere of jackal's blood is emptied into the basin. The ichor seethes, birthing a foaming mass from which limbs and eyes coalesce. The spawn is made manifest. If the acolyte is bold, a bronze rod bearing hexagonal runes may be pressed into the spawn. Should the bond take, the creature will speak, revealing passages, ores, or even memories of epochs forgotten. To conclude, the sign of 3 trembling fingers is performed, index, middle, and ring digits quivering above the basin, while others fold inward. As the sign is cast, the spawn collapses into viscous dormancy. The rite ends with the phrase, "Miri Nakai Adsal." The caverns grow silent, and the gate is sealed, until the next black moon awakens the god once more. Tsathoggua is defined not by movement, but by stillness that devours. His true form remains inert, vast, flaccid, unroused save by mortal blood or precise rite. Even hunger does not impel him to rise. He moves not through space, but through cracks in dimensional strata, shifting from Saturn to Nakai in slumberous drift, never setting foot upon the earthly surface. Those who enter his presence fall swiftly under the pressure of his ancient mind. His emanations, subsonic, gelatinous, pre-verbal, coagulate within the cerebrum. Thought thickens, limbs freeze. The god's will murmurs through alien syllables in the psyche, often mistaken for one's own thoughts. Ralibar Vuz of Kunyan, recorded in the annals of Tsathoggua, was driven by this influence into a death cave, smiling even as he fell. From the black ichor of the bronze basin emerged the spawn, shapeless at first, then coalescing into horrors of limb, fang, and tentacle. These births are not mechanical, but parthenogenetic, the will of the god shaping slime into sentient frenzy. Spawn adapt in real time to threat and terrain. Their forms extend, retract, and morph through slits in flesh and logic. Linked by a subterranean mycelial intelligence, they regenerate from dispersed mass, returning to the basin or creeping back through fungal conduits. Yet these abominations are not immortal. They are tethered to the basin's resonance, destroy the basin, and they collapse into inert goo. Extreme cold disrupts their cohesion. A rod inscribed with the triple hexagon will pacify them, though mastery is never assured. Though his mass remains in Nikai, Tsathoggwa's essence traverses non-Euclidean gulfs. During specific celestial configurations, black moons, equinoxes, Saturnine retrogrades, he may whisper through void-slit portals, extending his will across eons and starfields. In glacial epochs he recoils, sealing himself beneath basalt until the cycle turns again. When all gates are sealed, his touch falters, but never vanishes. Tsathoggua reigns beneath. All spawn, lesser horrors, and chthonic denizens answer to him by instinct. He grants loyal cults access to forbidden tunnels, breathing paths into ore-rich veins and fungus-choked channels. Yet his agency does not ascend easily. On the surface, his presence moves only through proxies, relics, and dreams. Some apocryphal scrolls speak of his mind's eye, a bestowal of transient second sight, revealing the veiled architecture of the cosmos. Others tell of vast fungal legions beneath the polar crust, spreading his breath through mold and cold alike. There are even claims that his wrath may stir warm gases beneath the earth to generate blizzards or ice quakes, signs not of action, but of dreams shifting uneasily beneath the stone. Spawned of the god and the earth spirit Shushax, Tsathoggua is described in the Parchments of Pnom as a thing more virile than any sun-born beast. Possessed of preternatural charisma and brute strength, he was both champion and servant of his father. Tales persist of his war against shape-shifting spawn in Nikai's twilight corridors, until the cataclysm came and he was lost in basaltal collapse. These are Tsathoggwa's primary progeny, amorphous, black oozes born of blood, ichor, and spore. When summoned, they manifest as gelatinous monstrosities, tentacled, multi-eyed, multi-limbed, flesh reshaped by hunger and ritual. In ancient murals, they are depicted drawing crude toad symbols in slime as offerings to their god. Their vulnerabilities are well documented: disrupt the basin, apply intense cold, or wield the triple hexagon rod, and they fall. Born of Vormi and the abomination Svatlikel P. Nygathin Jam's spawn appeared as black, ever-splitting slime horrors in Comorium's last days. Mindless and self-replicating, they annihilated all form and structure in their path. These entities were the final echo of Tsathoggwa's dominion above ground, Hyperborea's last terror before the ice returned. Primitive and furry, the Vormis were the first to serve the god. These mountain-dwelling shamans worshipped Tsathoggua with crude basalt idols and simple sacrifices, tending basins in caves sealed by frost and fungus. Their blood birthed Zaum, and through them, the god's worship spread into the surface world. These sentient oozes drift through the black channels of the deep earth. Silent, slow, but psychically sensitive, they are mistaken for Tsathoggwa's own limbs by the ignorant. They act as microbial priests, extending the cult's presence into mines and tunnels through silent infection and glistening spore. Lurking beyond known hierarchies are creatures unnamed by mortal tongues, arachnoid gods suspended in fungal webbing, ophidian forms with dream skin and venomous thought. These lesser lieutenants move in echo of Tsathoggwa's will, enforcing silence and sealing away the profane. What little is known comes from shattered tablets and the blood-scrawled accounts of mad shamans. Tsathoggwa's effigies are wrought from rough-hewn basalt, shaped in utter austerity. Each idol, squat, corpulent, and with half-lidded eyes, bears no ornamentation, no trace of vanity or mortal flourish. The tongue protrudes like a viscous lure, inert yet suggestive of latent hunger. These forms reflect Nakai itself, bleak, unadorned, and implacably ancient. The worshipper is confronted not by majesty, but by stillness that demands reverence. Where detail is permitted, it is limited to glistening onyx, the only stone permitted to gleam. Onyx inlays sometimes adorn the eyes or pedestal, absorbing what little light dares approach. When set upon an onyx plinth, the idol becomes a locus of shadow, as though darkness itself bends toward it in obeisance. An ancient motif rendered in 6 concentric circles, the seal frames a central toad-shaped glyph. The rings represent the 6 spatial dominions, 4 cardinal points, nadir, and zenith, while the glyph binds Tsathoggwa's essence to a locus. Etched above thresholds and altars, it ensures that all who enter do so beneath the gaze of the sleeper. The common sigil consists of a triangular toad form, each foot bearing 3 webbed digits. Curving filaments encircle the limbs, evoking fungal growth and ocean barnacles. A rarer symbol, the triple hexagon, displays 3 interlocked hexes forming a cracked ocular cavity at its core. Both forms are etched into ritual tools, rods, spheres, and obelisks, and serve to channel the spawn's emergent will. Astronomical instruments, Saturnian sextants, Yugothian lunaria, are crowned with Tsathoggwa's mark. These are used to trace the arc of dark moons and planetary conjunctions. Black moon phases, during which Yuggoth's satellite vanishes, are recorded in the charts of dreamless sleep and denote peaks of spawn proliferation. The glyphs are not mere symbols, they are vectors through which slumbering consciousness seeps. Black is not absence but power in stillness. Basalt, born in the convulsions of ancient earth, holds both fire and stone in equilibrium. Each temple forged from it becomes a throat through which Nakai breathes into the world. Onyx absorbs without reflection. Its stillness mirrors the lethargy of the god it honors. As amulet, pedestal, or eye, it is a seal against dissolution and a beacon to that which crawls in silence. Tsathoggwa's nature is cold and timeless. His dominion resides not in flame, but in the deep earth's quiet. He is the fulcrum of elemental stasis, an ancient equilibrium where ice, stone, and sleep converge. Earth is his throne, not the fertile loam, but the cryptic bedrock of black basalt and slumbering mycelium. Ritual circles are drawn with stones and dust of ancient tectonics, the god's breath coalescing where stone is oldest. Though cold reigns above, basalt speaks of fires sealed below. Tsathoggua is not antithetical to heat, but to its revelation. Some rites call on buried magma to awaken frozen altars, volcanic breath beneath frozen tombs. Sikranosh, Saturn to mortal astronomers, is the god's natal beacon, the ice-ringed threshold from which he fell into the folds of time. The Parchments of Pnom recount rituals that open Saturnine gates, echoing the basalt doorways of Nakai. Its rings are interpreted as concentric seals, binding sloth, decay, and wisdom beneath frozen crust. Sacrifices made beneath its zenith root, Tsathoggwa's essence, deep within the earth's chthonic marrow. Yuggoth, the dead orb at the system's edge, shelters the god's eldest spawn. When its hidden moon eclipses all light, the fungoid bloom begins, a cycle of prolific spawning wherein mortal thought dissolves in eldritch delirium. On Yuggoth, the Migu observe black moon rites during lunar erasure, when the fungal orb ceases to reflect starlight. Each dark lunar cycle signals another unseen flood across plains, and in that voided sky, Tsathoggwa's power crests. Named Yaksh in esoteric cartographies, Neptune embodies the protean fluidity of spawn. Its tides resonate with birthing pools and mutable flesh. Offerings of spores and ichor are cast into sacred cisterns under Yaksh's alignment to honor his mutable offspring and accelerate fungal genesis. Among Hyperborea's crimson stars glimmers the Formless constellation, a ruddy arc whose apex reveals a hidden star, Saglar, known only to Vormi shamans. When it flickers at polar dawn, cavern gates stir, and the rites commence in whisper-choked chants that mimic the star's cold, pulsing rhythm. The number 3 dominates Tsathoggwan worship. The three-legged basin, the triadic glyph, the triple cry of Iya, Iya, Nothikagaha. Each represents a convergence, mind, body, spirit, and an unlocking. No rite may reach fruition without this unison. Nikai's columns form natural hexagonal matrices, seen as resonant with the triple hexagon's sigil. Spawn gestation echoes 7 lunar phases on Yuggoth, each aligned with unseen tides. These patterns, while mutable, cycle in heptads, marking the slow bloom of madness beneath. Tsathoggua disdains rigid geometry. No true text prescribes a magic square in his rites. The black appendices warn against symmetry, favoring instead the spiral, the organic growth, the formless current that spirals beneath ritual logic. To square his chaos is to summon error. Tsathoggua prophesies nothing. No 7 seals, no flame-ridden doom. His cults offer no apocalypse, only a slow, creeping saturation. His silence is not ignorance, but inevitability. Basalt fractures, and black water emerges from frozen springs. These are not weather, but omens, cracks in reality, pressure from the below. Cultists gather near warm fissures, hearing whispers from within. When slime coats the land, and fungal storms blacken the trees, spawn have breached their confines. Entire forests vanish beneath rot. The world above drowns not in water, but in hunger. At Olatho, when the glacial veil melts and aurorae curl into toad-shaped arcs, the thaw is not meteorological, it is a veiling torn, a signal to acolytes to resume forgotten chants, that the god's breath may once again mist the surface. In polar ruin wanders the White Sibyl, a prophetess clad in frost and prophecy. She declares that when the red-lit moon flickers thrice, and the saw-toothed caverns collapse, 3 gates shall unseal. What emerges will not scream, but slither. Cthulhu surges from sunken tombs, a titan rising. Nyarlathotep tears worlds in his wake, a trumpet of gore. But Tsathoggua seeps. His return is not a climax, but a saturation, the slow absorption of the world into torpor, decay, and spawning dark. That no prophecy names his hour is itself the omen. There is no thunder in the black soil's seepage, only the wet kiss of the inevitable. In Tsathoggua's cults, silence is not peace, it is certainty. To seal the basin, one must utter Miri Nikai Adsal thrice, while pressing a triple hexagon rod into its heart. The ichor stills, and the spawn collapse into dormancy until the moon turns black again. When idols endure, the disintegrating ray, a weapon scientific in origin, ritual in aim, reduces basalt effigies to dust. Where this fails, burial beneath an avalanche or immersion in a volcanic vent may sunder the link. 3 trembling fingers crossed over a sealed mouth shatter the psychic connection. This sign severs communion, halting whispers and stilling compulsion until the rite is re-established. Rituals timed to the bright moon of Yuggoth may mirror and unweave Tsathoggua's power. Likewise, Saturn-Mars squares fracture Nikai's resonance, dispersing spawn conduits beneath the crust. An onyx amulet bearing the double-toed glyph repels the initial frenzy of spawn, while a shard of basalt etched with a broken triple hexagon, worn over the heart, shields the mind from compulsive invasion. No acolyte may ingest fungal food for 3 nights before entering the sanctum, and the chant Chast Nikai Vantil veils the soul, masking its echo from subterranean resonance. A potion of powdered onyx, glacial salt, and preserved ice combats slime-induced delirium. For the skin, the Saturnine poultice, basalt dust, sulfur, and oil of root fungus, resists adhesion and grants precious seconds of escape. One must avoid basalt corridors, for spawn dwell where basalt lines the path. Limestone offers instability that discourages colonization and provides acoustic advantage. Spawn sense tremors. Walking lightly, covering one's breath with dry lichen, and avoiding rhythm are imperative, for stillness is survival. Deploy echo sentinels, blindfolded empaths immune to visual lures, to guard dead ends, and carry cryocharges, basalt-wrapped frozen salt explosives that flash freeze surrounding slime and stall approaching spawn.